Shalom Aleichem, everybody. You might recall when you're in Yeshiva, there's a Dvar Torah I like to say over all the time about Yitzias Mitzrayim, about Kriyat Yamsuf. The Medrash tells a very, very striking Medrash. It's found at the end of Parshas Beshalach, that when Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim, they crossed the Yamsuf. So imagine the scene. They're crossing the Yamsuf, and the Jewish people are being saved, and the Mitzrim are perishing in the Yam. And indeed, when you think about it, the Medrash points out that Satan asked Hashem, why exactly was this happening in this fashion? After all, you look at the Mitzrim, they were certainly Ovdei Avodah Zarah, they were Rishon, they were on the Memtes Shari Tumah. But the Satan asked Hashem, Bnei Yisrael is no different. They're also on Memtes Shari Tumah. They were also Ovdei Avodah Zarah, Halalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah, Vihalalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah. Why is it the Satan asked that the Jewish people were being saved and the Mitzrim were perishing in the Yam? What was the fundamental difference? And we usually say over a Meshech Chachma, which has a whole development as to why the question was asked right now, at this juncture, at Kriyat Yamsuf, when you could have been asking that question throughout the whole period of the Eser Makos. But I want to focus right now on the answer that Hashem gives the Satan, because it's a critical answer. Again, Halalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah, Vihalalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah. Why, Hashem, are you saving the Jewish people and causing the Mitzrim to perish? So the Medrash gives a very, very fundamental and profound answer, something to really, really think about it. It's true. Bnei Yisrael, in the process of Shibud Mitzrayim, they did many sins. They were Ovdei Avodah Zarah, they were on Memtes Shari Tumah. Had they stayed in one more moment any longer, they could have really slipped into the abyss. And certainly Mitzrayim were on Memtes Shari Tumah. But Hashem says to the Satan, Shotel Sheba Olam, you fool. You're making a very fundamental and tragic mistake. True, the Jewish people had slipped. However, their slippage, their fall, was from a state of Avdus, from a state of 210 years of Shibud. They were subjugated by the Mitzrim, persecuted by the Mitzrim for 210 years, 7 generations. Grandfather after grandfather, generation after generation, subject to that sense of persecution. They were guilty, but guilty with an excuse. The Mitzrim, they were on top of the world. They had everything going for them. They were the superpowers, wealthy, they had it all. And they too were Ovdei Avodah Zarah. We have, and the Medrash is telling us, there's a fundamental difference. Hashem said there's a big difference between a person who falls, mitoch oni, from a state of being impoverished, versus a person who falls from being on top of the world. We have many nisyonos, many challenges. There's a nisayon of oni, of persecution, of being downtrodden, and there's a nisayon of wealth, of ashrus, of ashirus, of tremendous power and control. And Hashem says, they're both nisyonos, but one is, if you will, a less challenging one is a more challenging one. The one is more forgivable than the other. The one that is more forgivable is the challenge of being impoverished. That's guilty, but guilty with an excuse. Everything's going good. You're on top of the world. You have money, you have power, things are going according to plan, according to good. You have to understand where that's coming from. You have to appreciate what it's all about. And that was the message that Hashem says to the Satan. True, Halalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah, Vihalalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah. But the Mitzrim were in a state of power. They were in a state where everything was good. And at that point, you have to be makir. You have to understand where it's coming from. The Jews also slipped, but Nebuch, they were in a state of being impoverished. And for us, it's a tremendous nisayon and a tremendous lesson, because, yeah, we all go through our difficulties, our challenges. We have our ups and downs, but when you look at the entire picture, more than any other time in Jewish history probably, we have a sense of freedom. We have a sense of wealth. Life is pretty good overall. Yes, in Eretz Yisrael we have our challenges with our neighbors, and yes, we're all struggling with parnasa, and those are all very real. But if you look at it from the perspective of the good versus the bad, the balance of the scales, overall, life is pretty good. And as such, you have to have that sense. When things are going well, you have to understand where it's all coming from. That's when we're on some level more accountable for our behavior, for our approach, for our emunah, for our sense of bitachon. And that's the message of this medrash, a beautiful message, something to think about on a deep level, to go ahead and, when life is good, have that sense of hakaras hatov and appreciation, because perhaps when things are going smoothly, that's when we're more accountable for our actions. Have an excellent day.